Hi, I'm Tanuki. A week ago, Artfight started, and this video, as the title says, will go over every art that I made during this first week of Artfight. And I will ramble a bit because I love rambling. So for my first art piece, I decided to attack my partner. His character doesn't have any reference for how I'm drawing him right now, since it is more about a physical change we talked about together. I did have a Pinterest board and knew the vibe pretty well, since I know my partner's character pretty well. For that first piece, I decided to go with my usual colored style, using a pretty soft brush for the line art and the rendering. I used to go with more textured brushes, but recently I'm really into that brush and basically do everything with it, which is kind of funny since it is called the everything brush. Also, I decided I would put a background, which is not my forte, mostly because I don't like doing it. I decided I would just do one pretty fast with my filling lasso tool and blend it and call it a day. Even if I did a background, I did not stamp the scene in my bingo because it was a pretty low effort background, and I think I can do better than that. Then I attacked my friend. It is their first year and I really wanted to be the first attacking her. So I picked her character named Juno and read a little about him. I wanted to make something that could be related to the character since he has such a vibe. I decided to go with the fact that he steals some pieces of fabric and picked a pose where he would be sitting on his last treasure. Also for this piece, I simply cleaned my sketch and used it as my line art. It's something that I cannot do if my sketch is too messy or if I have to use a different brush for the line art. Again, here I went with color since this character is so colorful, and my goal with the fabric stealing would not really be understandable in black and white. Now, something I love adding to my colored pieces is noise. It adds this little sparkles that makes it all tie together, and wow, I just love it. I counted this attack as attack a first year in my bingo. Now for that drawing, I would get to practice more of a manga style. I did an interaction and made a romantic one. Something you have to know about me during Artfight is that I try to find people with good stats. What I mean by that is that if I see someone with way more defenses, so received drawing, than attack, drawing done for others, I will usually decide to pass. And don't get me wrong, I totally understand having a life outside of Artfight. My idea is more that if you already get so many defense, I will concentrate on someone who doesn't. I mention it now because I found those OCs by going through my bookmarks, realizing that everyone had pretty low stats. And then I found them. Anyways, I spent a lot of time on that drawing because I was pretty self-conscious about it. Every time I kept asking my partner, is it good? Is it pretty enough? Do we like it? And he was like, yes, obviously, yes it is, you're doing great. And in the end, I look at it and I'm very happy with the result. I was just nervous since I'm not used to doing that type of art for Artfight, and I counted this as do something new in my bingo. Then during the time I was doing all that, I received some attack, so obviously I had to go revenge them. I started with this water character. At first I was not sure how I would make it work with the colors since I'm not used to make that type of texture, but I usually play with colors and make it work. Obviously for that one I would need colors, so I just didn't do a manga style for that revenge. When I drew this, I was out sitting at a cafe in a big supermarket. I love going out to places to draw and getting out of my little cave, change scenery and all. Since I'm disabled, I'm not used to going out much, but experiences like this make me want to do it more. Back to the drawing, I tried to mix all the colors I could see on my reference, and in the end added a layer with a gradient of blue, pink, and yellow that I placed in overlay. I really think it made the drawing pop up, and I'm glad I thought about it. I also kept the same colors to color the line art, which I think the little bit of yellow that we see in it really makes it all make sense. I did not stamp that revenge in my bingo since it didn't fit with any of the slots. Then for my second revenge, I picked a character I could draw in a manga style. I thought this badass girl would definitely work, and I picked this pose with perspective in it. I will not count it for a difficult perspective in the bingo though, since it is a pose that I already had drawn. I only realized pretty late that the character had freckles and tattoos, so I added those. And I also had an issue with some earrings in the second ear. I think I erased them at some point, but I don't know how that even happened. Anyways, I had two choices for the clothes part and went with all black with some white hatching, white line art, plus black shadows. shadows. For the background, I added a strong shadow on the right and some light on the left since I thought it was looking pretty funky without it. And here we are with a second revenge. In the bingo, I counted this one as attack a character with no attack. For the final drawing of that week, I did my third revenge. This person had a specific style, and so I wanted to make sure I understood every part of the character and not misdraw them. Usually that is when I go check for other attacks on that character, and I was able to find exactly what I needed, which was the side of the haircut for the character. I decided to go with a calm vibe, the character just sitting there and relaxing. It was also important for me to draw this character in a manga style, since I see many people talking about how black people are not compatible with the manga style. This is absolute bullshit. This only comes from people who don't care to learn, because you can make anyone in any style. Anyways, I didn't know how I wanted to do her vitiligo. I drew a lot of vitiligo before, but mostly in color, so I tried something with some little hatching line to see if I'd like it. I think it works well. I do want to try different ways to see if I prefer a different technique. I did a little gradient in their hair and I like how that turned out. And I made a background with some rectangles and sparkles and dots. I did not have anything to stem for that in my bingo. So those are the drawings I did for the 6 first days technically. Also, I did find someone that I was really interested in attacking, but I will make a manga panel, so it will take longer, so I'm not just gonna take one day to make it. And I'm really invested in the relationship of those two characters that are gonna be in the little comic that I'm gonna make. I will make a full video about that specific attack, so if you are interested, I will probably post it next week, and I will see you in the next one.